All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Robert Smirking Gun Reviews, and thankfully I'm able to get to another episode of The Haunting of Hill House. We are up to episode 8. It is called Witness Marks, so full spoilers if you haven't seen the episode. Again, as I always say, if you are new to the channel, you're new to this, and this is the first one you're watching, you can see a spoiler-free review on my two-part series review on the channel. First part, no spoilers. Second part, half spoilers. So just get that past. Get that forward. So again, I don't see what people are talking about when they say that it's kind of after episode 6 starts to go downhill. And I think that these initial reactions that people had are just from their preconceived notion of what this show was going to be, or what they felt it had to be. And so I feel like people just were disappointed that it wasn't going the way that they wanted it to go. And for me, it was going exactly where I wanted it to go. I think on further inspection and further reviews and more people that rewatch the show, because this is really rewatchable. I mean, I have no problem rewatching this and still feeling the tension. It's definitely something I don't want to overwatch, just so that it doesn't ever kind of get too, where I don't become numb to things. Because there are moments still in this episode that are really scary, but again, as I can't say enough, if especially if people only watch this review, if this is like their favorite episode or something, and they don't understand, where I come from, is that this show is about family, and this show is about what a family goes through, and how living in a haunted house has affected their lives, and all the supernatural stuff is just, the setting. It's not what it's about. There are ghosts, but they're not the main characters. It's not about what happened to them. Like, we find out things that happen to people in this house, but that's not the important thing. It's not like we are looking for evidence to, if we find this out, we'll be able to stop it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, we need to find out why this ghost is causing so much trouble. It's like, no, it's not like that. But anyway, so Witness Marks. Again, a great standout episode for everyone involved. Carla Gugino doesn't get to do that much, but when she does do, it is still just really eerie, creepy, sad, tragic. Timothy Hutton gets to do a lot more in this episode, which I really like him so much. And man, every time I see him in this role, I remember why I've liked him for so long. And I never really watched Leverage, the show that he was on, just because it's just one of those shows that I just can't do. I just can't do it. Even though I like him and I like Christian Kane. Anyway, different show. But I really like Timothy Hutton. And in this, he finally starts to tell Steve what's, things that he needs to know. But again, this episode has kind of divides its time up between the different characters a little bit evenly. So we get to know that Steve was, the problem with Steve's marriage is that they couldn't have kids, and it turns out that he had a vasectomy and didn't tell his wife that he had this before they were married, and kept it a secret after they were married, and then eventually she found out that he had a vasectomy and they can't have kids, and so she left him. And the reason he doesn't want kids is because of what happened to them. And how he feels like the illness that his mother has, that he thinks she has, he didn't want to pass that on. And, Timothy Hutton's, his character, he feels bad. He's like, it's a shame, having kids is like the best thing and blah, blah, blah. And I do like what he says about how passionate he is about Olivia, even after she's gone. That the key, the kite and the line, and how much they loved each other. And one really important thing that is said here is that we fought with love. And it's kind of a throwaway line, but it really means something for the end of this show. It really, really does. We fight with love. And again, done in a different way, that could be really goddamn hokey and cheesy. But in this, it's handled well. And we'll get to that when we get to that episode. And he paints such a great picture of their relationship without having to, or it's just in a car. Like how interesting do car conversations get? I mean, this isn't Pulp Fiction, you know what I mean? But it's really good, honest dialogue where he's trying to reach the son that used to worship the ground he walked on. And he's trying to get some of it back, to just reach out to his son and try to repair some of the damage that's been done. Now, I understand where Steve's coming from, because family trauma can cause that kind of thing where, I mean, I saw how my family was. Like my mother, I call her the person who gave birth to me. Not mom anymore. But for the sake of this video, I'll say my mother, she never should have had kids, and she had problems, and she's the reason why I decided never to have kids, because she was very selfish, and I knew that I couldn't do what she did to me and my sisters, and I made the decision early on that I didn't want to run the risk of being like that. And I made the rash decision, like I carried this on for a long time, where I was just like not going to have kids because of the way my family, how I felt my lineage was. And now, like as I've gotten older, I still kind of stick to my guns on the whole no kids thing, but it's more of I'm just so used to not having, like, the thought of having a kid at this point is kind of But anyway, it just, at least I can say that that's what I relate to in this episode. It's just that kind of frustration of a parent, feeling like, if you had children, you might carry on the same problems. You might be not very good at what, at being a parent because of how how your parents were to you. Now we also got Shirley and Theo. I really like look, I know it's cheap. It's a cheap and easy thing, the banging on the walls and the knocking on the doors and the ringing of the bells. But, when you're sitting in the dark with like noise canceling headphones on watching this, it just creeps me out. It's that whole not knowing what's on the other side of the door thing. She does see the guy with the glass again with the drink. I don't think he's a ghost. I think that's just something that she projects. It's something that's been bothering her, and we will get the answer to that in the next episode, I think. We only got 2 left, so yeah, but I think it is in the next episode. But her and Theo's relationship here, this fractured relationship where Theo is trying to communicate to a very, very stubborn Shirley, what's going on. And I love that she's now, Theo is now trying to reach out. And it's like, well, what changed? Because she was, even, at the funeral, she was still keeping distance, but she's now like trying to reach out to her instead of trying to stay away. And I love, well, we'll get to that. So they know that Luke took the card in the car, and they're tracking him. At first they think he's going to go for drugs, but then they find, they get the call that he was at a gas station. The only place that's, near that gas station is Hill House, so they know where he's going. And, Hugh tells them to stay behind. Don't go to the girls. Don't go nowhere. Don't come. Don't follow us. And him and Steve are going to try to stop Luke. They also find out that Luke bought 5 cans of gasoline. So Hugh knows that he's going to burn the fucking house down. Another really cool thing about this episode, and I should have brought it up during the scene where Steve and his wife were talking about having kids, is that creepy image of Carla Gugino right outside the glass. Just kind of right outside where you know it's her, but you know, enough like faintness to where you could think, you know, maybe it's somebody else, and then it's gone. And come on, okay, like nobody has that kind of, she clearly was there. It's her reaching out. It's her witnessing a sad moment in her child's life. Like she's still trying to experience, you know, seeing, you know, how tough their lives are. And that gets explained in the final episode, that she has been watching this whole time, experiencing her children's suffering, which goes into, you know, like the motivations of that character even after death. But it is a creepy image, and I still, one of the only things that still bothers me about this show is just Steve's denial. Seeing things over and over and over again and just taking it as I'm just seeing shit. And it's like, no man, people don't just see shit, okay? This is the real, you know, like if you want to pretend that you're in the real world, nobody just says that they just saw shit. Like people, I've talked to people who've said they've seen things, and they don't act like they haven't seen something. And they're not kooks either. They're not people that I would go, yeah, I'm sure you did see something, glug, 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 glug. The fight in the car with Theo and Shirley was great. That whole scene where it amps up until the ghost of Nell just shoots in between them. I forgot that was gonna happen the second time through here. I really didn't see it coming when I was watching it the first time, and it made me almost poop my pants. The second time though, I still forgot that was gonna happen, and I was more startled. It's not a jump scare because it's literally, it's right there. It's a boom, it's a real scare, and I still jumped a little bit when I saw that part. But Theo's speech describing the nothingness after touching Nell's body, that she wanted to know what happened, and that nothingness that infected her, explained so much about how she was behaving at the funeral and things like that in the visiting room, like she's just getting drunk, the visitation, that she literally couldn't feel anything, that her power, until she didn't know, like she still had her gloves on, so she was just not feeling anything until when the lights went out and she's in the basement looking for more booze. She feels Shirley's husband, and it wakes her up. It gives her, you know, so she went to kiss whatever, you know, whoever that was, and it turned out to be Shirley's husband, who pushes her away, but she was so relieved. I just love how she delivers this great speech. I mean, it could, in other circumstances, again, this could be really cheesy, but it works here. That feeling of how she goes, I'd rather feel the shame that I felt than nothing that was there before. That's just great. That's just great stuff. And again, it's like it balances that supernatural line with real drama of a real family. And I'm telling you, man, for a show about, you know, that has ghosts and people getting possessed by ghosts and creepy jump scares and bent neck ladies and all sorts of stuff, to me, this is better human drama than most crap on television, man. I gotta tell you, it really is, because it feels genuine. There's an authenticity and a genuineness and an earnestness to all these people, and you really care. Okay, think about how long you watch some of these damn shows, and how long it takes for you to be invested, really invested in them. You know what I mean? It takes a while before, if somebody were to just die off, you know, unless you're just one of those fragile little Fabergé eggs that just cracks at the, you know, first sign of somebody that dies in a show. It takes a while to get really attached. In this, man, the thought of any of these characters dying, even Nell's dying, that I knew was going to happen, was just, I couldn't accept. Even like I hated it. I hated it. I was so upset, and still am when I like, even thinking about it right now, where it's just like I didn't want anything bad to happen to these people, even though I know some of it's unavoidable. And so when you get speeches like this that are delivered like that, you know, it just, in a 10 episode limited series on Netflix, that's why it's my favorite thing I've seen all year. And I'm counting everything, you know, TV, movies, you know, it is the best thing I've seen all year. And like I said, I love Infinity War. I love Infinity War. But this just, there's something this is just better as an overall whole package. And so Shirley and Theo are on their way. Hugh and Steve are on their way to the house, and Luke is already there. And you know, it sucks because you really want it to work. You know it can't. You know it's not that easy. But just that whole thing of him whipping the gasoline around. Well, first you know things aren't going to be good because the house turns red from the inside. Like, instead of the light, warm glow of the earlier parts when Nell shows up, it turns red, like it's getting ready for a fight. But even so, watching him dump the gasoline and then with the lighter and him counting to 7 and everything, it's like you really are rooting for this to happen. You know it's not going to work. You're waiting for that terrible thing to happen, which in this case, like, they don't really play with our expectations. They know what we want. They also understand that most of us understand that we're not going to get what we want right here. But they still play it out. Pardon me. They still play it out beautifully, where he lights the lighter, he counts to 7, he throws the lighter on there, and has that cool flame that just nothing. And then you see his mother. I almost picked her at the top of the stairs as the background, as this in red, and this just, that's not their, you know, like, this presence. She's bigger than, you know, life now, after death, and beckoning him to come. And then you see Poppy. Now let's talk about Poppy really quick, because Steve finds the vanity. He knows that his mother's having a problem. He sees her in the room with the twins, and she's talking to herself, and he knows that there's something wrong, and she's going to Janet's because, you know, he told her that, you know, his dad told him that she's going away. She's been too cooped up. So he decides to do this nice little project. And speaking of projects, we get that room, the game room. And so before I get to the vanity, I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of jumping all over. It's some things I'm forgetting and I'm coming back to later here. When Timothy Hutton's character explains something that they really need to know, which is there was no treehouse. And the vanity, that room that you were working on the vanity in, it doesn't exist. Where do you think you were? Like, when did you think I had time to build a treehouse? And this is where the red room is starting to really take shape. I'm going to talk a lot more about the red room in the final episode. I feel like talking about it too much, just especially for people that are watching it for the first time all the way through. It's a final episode discussion, but like, you know, it starts to go, okay, well then where the hell was that treehouse? I mean, it'd have to be kind of dense to not know what he's talking about at that point. Like the game room and the treehouse and all this stuff, it's not there. And the whole thing with the ghost of the clock guy. And that witness mark speech was really great about how to describe how the witness marks tell what's been done to the clock. I really love it. And then that you see the marks, but you don't know how to read them. I love that line. So anyway, Poppy, as told to Stephen by Mrs. Dudley, played also, I never really talked about Annabeth Gish. She is a pretty decent actress. She worked with Timothy Hutton on Beautiful Girls. That just popped into my head. She was also Monica Reyes on The X-Files. That performance is kind of divisive. But she's been in a whole bunch of things, and she's really understated here and really subtle. And I like what they get for her to do later when they explain more about her. Because right now she just seems like that weird dark character that, you know, Mr. Dudley defends, but, you know, she seems to know all this stuff, but why the fuck are they hanging around, you know? But when she describes Poppy and her husband and how the Hills, they're just a bunch of nutcases, that she was like, her and him met in a mental institution. And so she's already, you know, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And so we start to understand a little bit more about who's kind of, like we haven't been completely explained to you about who's in charge, you know, as far as the ghosts go, like who's the main instigator of things. But as they talk about Poppy, and then you get the vanity, and you start to kind of put two and two together, that who's controlling Mom? Who's the one that's walking around the house in her body, you know? So when he gives her the vanity, and it's got all the pictures and it's all nice, and she's fine until she looks in the vanity. And that love, that quick, that switch from just joyous, you know, feeling of pride in her son and what he did for her, to just, and then punching the glass. Just great. And how she snaps to again. Like, she's been able to pop in and out of these things so well. Again, I know at this point I should shut up about Carla Gugino, but I love her in this so much. So to get back to it, you know, we see Luke light the carpet. It goes nowhere. His mother's at the top of the stairs beckoning, and then we see Poppy, the ghost, the decrepit looking corpse version of Poppy, standing behind Luke, and she grabs his face. And that's the end of the episode. Fantastic. It's the shortest episode, I think, of the series, and it still did its job pretty goddamn good. So anyway, all roads lead to the house now. We will get some more little flashes from everybody, but things are getting pretty close to wrapping up. So that's it for this episode. So if you did like it, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Hit the bell for all notifications on the channel. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying we will be back with more Haunting of Hill House. Otherwise, you can check out some of our other videos. We got a ton of content. If you look at my playlists, you'll probably find something you'll like. So thanks for all the support, and we will see you on the next video.